I made a bag, all in the embroidery hoop. Technically it was 2 hoopings and not everything was made in the hoop. The strap wasn't. But today I'm going to walk you through step by step on how I made my Nana Crossbody Bag. I'm calling it my Nana Crossbody Bag because she would have loved this bag, y'all. It is quilted on both sides. There's a full-size pocket on this side. There's 2 pockets on this side, and it's big enough for your cell phone. My humongous cell phone fits in this top pocket right here. I love a crossbody bag. I don't carry purses. I say I don't carry purses. If I'm going out and about and that's all I have, I will. But I much prefer a smaller crossbody bag. And this is going to be my new favorite one. This is made in 2 separate hoopings. We're going to go through and I'm going to show you how to hoop the back part of the bag first. It's stitched in the hoop. You need a 6x10 or a larger hoop. I've come to interrupt our broadcast. Y'all, I'm editing this video the next day. It's early in the morning. I just got out of the shower. There's no makeup. There's no nothing. It's just me being real. And before we move on with this video, as I'm editing, I just have a couple of things that I want to mention right from the get-go. Y'all, I am just a wannabe bag maker. I've always wanted to be able to make bags. My mind just doesn't work like that, right? We're all different. Lord knows I can make a quilt from a photograph. I can digitize on a computer how to make this bag that a machine will stitch for me. Like I can do that. But with my own 2 hands, I cannot just whip out a bag. My mind doesn't work like that. So unfortunately, this pattern is only available for embroidery machines. Y'all, there are so many wonderful, talented pattern creators out there. Just take a look around Etsy for a bag that is similar to this crossbody with the zippers on the front and the back, right? That you don't have to have an embroidery machine for. So I just want to say I'm so sorry. This pattern, this design, this bag is made with an embroidery machine. And maybe one day I will sit down and just really try to focus on making a bag like this with my own 2 hands. Second, this is going to be a longer video. It's like about an hour and 20 minutes long. Can we just normalize longer video formats here on YouTube? And it be okay, right? Like, this video is a complete walkthrough, and I've sped parts up. This is a complete project walkthrough, 2 hoopings on the embroidery machine, making a strap, an adjustable strap, making the little tabs with the D-rings, and walking you through the materials I'm using and the supplies I'm using. I don't know why. Like, if we were to pay to take a class in person, we would get angry. We would pay a lot of money, and we would get angry if the class was only 10 minutes long. But you make a free video that anybody can watch, and you put it on YouTube, and people get angry at you if it's long. Like, I'm sorry. It's a longer video. It's a complete walkthrough of this project. Rant over. I'm sorry. And I just want to apologize for 2 things before we move on. And I promise I'm going to keep it short. Since I moved over here, the microphone is there. And it is catching every noise I make on this table. I'm going to be aware of that from now on. Maybe there's a setting I can change. I don't know. But I apologize for every time I make noise on my table, setting stuff down. It picks it up like crazy. I'm sorry. I'm just noticing that as I'm editing. And the second, I'm going to apologize right now for every time I say, this bag is thick. Like, can we turn it into a game? How many times does Lisa say, this bag is thick? This bag is thick. The seams are thick. The strap is thick. I use denim in this bag just to let you know. And it's thick. All right, let's get back to the video. Unfortunately, this is only one size. This is my first in the hoop project, and I'm super proud of it. I love it. So I hope you stick around. We're going to do the back of the bag first, and then we're going to rehoop, and we're going to stitch the front of the bag, and I'm going to walk you through all the steps. There is a pattern for this. or not a pattern really. It's stitch files, y'all. It's done in the embroidery hoop. The link for that brings you over to my Etsy shop. If you get that, follow along. There's written instructions, but I learn better watching versus reading. There are written instructions if you'd rather have that too. Do you want to see how I made it? It's so much fun. Let me try it on for you. I made an adjustable length strap, which is heavy duty. It's super thick. I didn't really plan for it to be this thick, but watch this. So that's the front of the bag. I like putting my rings here and there because it just fits my body. I gotta pull my shirt down. It just fits nice and snug against my body. See that? See that? Of course, you can make the strap as long or as short as you want, but watch this. When I'm out and about, at the grocery store, at the farmer's market, wherever, right? Look how easy that just fits right in there. See that? It doesn't even go to the top. Put my bank cards, put my cash right there. I flip this around like this, and here's a full-size pocket on the back, and it's all lined on the inside and finished. I can't believe I designed this, y'all. It is so dang pretty. Let's go make it. I measure and cut all day, every day for quilt making. So one of the things I wanted about this bag is to make it super simple. I didn't want to have to measure and cut specific pieces for this bag every time, and I wanted it to be super scrap friendly and fast and quick. So with this pattern, there's a separate PDF with your templates for all of your materials, and I cut mine out and laminated them so they're nice and sturdy and I can reuse them umpteen million times without them falling apart, right? So you'll print off that PDF and cut out each one of your templates right on the line, and what you'll end up is with this, okay? And so there are 3 templates for cutting your materials for the back of the bag. You have the top section of the bag, and it's going to say right on the template, you need one of these from fabric and one of these from batting, okay? Back of the bag. This is the bottom section of the bag. You need one fabric and one batting piece cut with this template. This is also for the back side of the bag, right? We're doing 2 different hoopings, the back of the bag and the front of the bag. This is for the back of the bag. You need 3 of these cut out with this template. All right, and it's going to tell you one's going to be placed right side up on the back side of the hoop. We'll get to that here in a minute. And the other 2 will go wrong sides together on the back side of the hoop during the last step of the stitch out. So you'll need 3 fabrics using this. And it sounds confusing, but I'm going to walk you through it. And after you make the bag the first time, you're going to be like, oh, okay, it's so simple. And then you'll have this set of templates for the front side of the bag, okay? This is your top panel. For the front of the bag, you'll need one from fabric and one from batting. This is for the front side of the bag. This shape is for your inside lining. And at the bottom of this template is also the other materials you're going to need for the strap and your 2 tabs for your D-rings. Okay, so it tells you right there what you need to cut for those pieces. Those are the only pieces you really need to measure and cut. Everything else is super fast. This is for the middle of the front side of the bag. You need one from fabric and one from batting. The bottom panel, one fabric and one batting. And then this is for the bottom pocket. It's your bottom pocket lining, and you'll need 2 of these. And before cutting, lay the fabrics with the wrong sides facing each other, and you'll see me do that here in just a second. So it seems like a lot. It seems a little complicated, but it's really not. and I'm gonna walk you through everything. All right, so for this bag, y'all know I love some denim, and I have a pair of blue jeans. They don't make blue jeans like they used to anymore, and this is one of my favorite pairs. It is really hard to find. I am a bootcut, mid-rise bootcut jean person. It is so hard to find those now, but this pair of jeans has seen its last days. They've been worn and washed so many times they have holes in them, right? So I'm going to save the top portion of these jeans for a skirt. I'm going to do a little patchwork skirt. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. I've never done it, but I'm saving the top portion with the pockets for the skirt. And then I have all of this. I'm going to make my strap for this bag from the legs, and I'm going to make some body parts of this bag from the legs. And you know what? This denim is not thick. It is super flexible. It's been used and loved. And now I'm going to make a bag that I'm going to use and love from it. But it's not super thick denim, right? It is really thin. It's the stretchy denim, right? It's not thick. So I have denim, and then I have these 2 cuts of fabric in my stash. I don't know how much is here, but it will be plenty. Let's talk about the batting for this project. Now, you could make this bag without batting. You could omit or skip past the quilting steps of this bag if you wanted to. If you do that, I do suggest that you, in addition to the materials for this bag, replace this with some fusible interfacing, and I would add fusible interfacing to the back side of your fabrics to give your bag some body, some structure, right? Now, because I'm quilting mine with batting, that gives it the structure that is needed for this bag. So I'm not going to be using any fusible interfacing on my fabrics because the quilting and the batting is going to serve as that structure. But if you want to use batting and do the quilted part of it, it needs to be super thin. There's going to be some thickness to this bag because the bag is quilted on both the front and the back, right? So it needs to be super, super thin batting, like a Warm and Natural is pretty thin. In my quilting, I have switched over to Quilter's Dream Cotton Request, and it is super thin. Like, can you see how thin this is? It is super, there you go, you can see that. It's super thin, and it's perfect for this bag, right? I would not suggest using anything much thicker than this because of the thickness of the bag, right? And if you do go with a thicker batting, you need to watch the hoop so carefully, right? And instead of assembling the front and the back of the bag in the hoop, the very last step, I would do it manually with the sewing machine, right? That's what I would do. But super thin quilt batting is what I'm using. So I'm just going to walk you through. We'll speed up this part because it's going to take a minute. I'm trying to decide what goes where, right? So we'll speed it up, but I'm going to bring you along for this process so you can see, right? I'm not going to measure none of this. And just to let you know, these templates are slightly bigger than the actual position of the bag, right? When I'm doing my in the hoop projects, I like my fabrics to go beyond the placement by a good amount so I can secure that in the hoop, right? It's not going to catch the presser foot. It's not super close. So there is a tiny bit of waste, but I'm okay with that because the machine's doing all of the hard work for me. Okay, so let's get started. I am speeding this part up a lot faster, but if you need to pause it to take a note or two to see exactly how I'm cutting each one of these out, please feel free to do so. You can see I work from scraps a lot, and it's my preferred way of making pretty much anything. So yeah, pause it and take notes if you need to. We're going to work through this part pretty quickly. All right, with this bag, it's going to take 2 hoopings. We're going to do the back of the bag first because we need that to finish up the front of the bag, right? So we're going to hoop the back of the bag first and stitch that out. So what we need for the back of the bag is the top panel with the batting, the bottom panel with the batting, and 3 lining fabrics, right? So that's what we need for the back. I'm going to go ahead and hoop my stabilizer. You could use a no-show mesh. You could use a water soluble, and that's what I have because I have no-show mesh on the way. It's not here yet. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my hoop and my stabilizer. I'm going to get that hooped up, and we're going to meet at the embroidery machine. Okay, I have my hoop all ready to go. This is some wash away stabilizer, and this is my 7 by 12 inch hoop, I believe, but this bag can stitch out in a 6 by 10 hoop or larger. So this is going to give me a little bit of extra room to work in the hoop, right? So that is hooped and ready to go. Let's talk about the other things that we need to do to prep our machine, right? I'm going to wind a bobbin with some bobbin thread, and I'm going to be using a 40 weight embroidery thread for all of the stitching of this bag on the top, and I matched it to some of my fabrics, right? So that'll be super cute in the quilting and the satin stitch. You'll see that here in a minute. When it comes time to assemble the back and the front of the bag together, you might want to swap out your bobbin thread and match your top thread. I believe that this is a little bit stronger than the bobbin thread, and we need something strong to sew the back and the front together. So I'm going to go ahead and wind a bobbin. Let's talk about needles. Because this bag has some thickness, I have been stitching my bags with a 1280 needle. This is just a 1280 home sewing needle, right? And but because I'm using denim in this bag, if I start to experience any thread breaking or skip stitches, I might need to move up to a 1490 because of the denim. We'll see. I have both of these needles. I'm going to start with a 1280. That's what I've sewn all of my bags up to this point with, right? So we have that. We need some zippers. You need 3 of them. These are 12-inch zippers. They need to be at least 11 inches long. They need to extend beyond the body of the bag for a little while, so they need to be a little bit longer. These are plastic, not metal, right? Plastic. And I'll put a link for these down in the description box. You get a whole bunch, different colors, like 3 or 4 of each one of the colors, so you can match them to your bags. And so yeah, I'll put these in the description box. We need 3 for each bag. And that is it. I'm going to go wind a bobbin. We're going to meet at the embroidery machine. Here we are at the sewing machine for the very first step. Y'all, there is no sewing machine noise because I had music on while making this bag, and I did not want that playing in the background. And I have sped all parts of the embroidery at the embroidery machine up a little bit so we can move through the steps a little bit quicker. And pardon my voice, I'm getting over a cold, so y'all just bear with me. The very first step, which you see here, is going to be a placement stitch. This is going to show you the exact size of this piece and the placement for the zipper. Once you stitch this out, you're going to remove the hoop from the embroidery machine, and you're going to bring it over to your table. There's my placement stitch, and you're going to flip the hoop over to the back side, and you're going to bring over one of your back linings. You're going to place this on the back side of the hoop with the right side of the fabric facing up, and I'm just using masking tape just to hold this in place on the back side of the hoop. We're going to bring this over to the front of the bag, and I'm going to place my zipper with masking tape in the position. Now make sure that the pulls, the hardware, and the end of the zipper extends beyond the outside stitch line, right? By at least an inch. And I'm just going to use some masking tape to hold this in place. And we're going to bring this back to the embroidery machine. The next two steps is going to be just a simple tack down stitch of the zipper. It's going to stitch a straight stitch on one side of the zipper, just securing that zipper in place, right? And then move over to the other side and stitch down the other side of the zipper. Now I can just remove the tape from the inside or leave it. Next, we're going to do a placement stitch for the top panel of the back of the bag. This is going to show us where we're going to place the batting and the fabric for the top of the bag. And then it's going to move down and we're going to do a placement stitch for the bottom panel of the back of the bag. This is also going to secure the zipper too, but it's also stitching down the lining fabric on the back side of the hoop and securing that in place. So now let's remove this from the hoop. We're going to turn the hoop over to the back side and we're going to take some snips and we're going to remove the fabric from the middle portion of the zipper. So I'm just trimming that real close to the stitch line, and then I'm also going to remove the wash away stabilizer from the middle section of this zipper. So that's nice and trimmed up. We can bring this back to the embroidery machine, and this is what we look like so far. So the next part stitches down a tack down stitch of the top panel and the batting. So you see I just made sure to extend beyond that placement stitch pretty evenly, and it's going to go through and tack these materials down. I highly suggest that once this is done, you remove it from the hoop. I'm not good at trimming inside the hoop really close, so remove it from the hoop. We're going to cut away the batting and the fabric along the side of the zipper. Now we want these materials trimmed real close to that stitch line. Down the road there's a satin stitch that covers this raw edge. We want that satin stitch to cover the entire portion of that raw edge. Nice and close. So let's bring it back to the hoop or back to the machine. We're going to place our bottom panel with the batting, and it's going to do the tack down stitch of this piece. Just going right along. It's going to go around it 2 times, securing those fabrics right to that stabilizer. We're going to remove this from the hoop, and we're going to also trim the fabric and batting along the side of the zipper real close to the stitch. The next 2 portions are the quilting portions. We're going to do a crosshatch quilting on the top panel and the bottom panel. Now if you're making this bag without the batting and you want to eliminate the quilting of this bag, you could simply just advance to the next part of the stitch out, right? And just to make a little note while we watch the crosshatch quilting being done is all of the colors you see on the printout, we're not changing thread colors each time a different color is on that sheet, right? Those are just indications for the machine to stop so that we can do the next process of the bag. I'm using the same top thread for every position, every stop of this design. Those colors are just instructions for the machine to start and stop. The next part is going to do the cross hatching on the bottom part of the bag. And as we're watching this along, I've sped it up 3 times faster. You can slow it down on your YouTube settings if you need to, or you can pause it. Or if this is too slow for you, you can also speed up the video in your YouTube settings. Did you know that? So it's going to go through and do the crosshatch quilting. And this is really when, for me, the bag starts taking on such just a lovely charm. I love the quilting of this bag. You could, at this point, have changed out the colors of the top thread for the quilting, right? If you wanted to use a different color on the top portion of the panel and a different color thread on the bottom portion of the panel, you could have changed your top thread if you wanted to. Those are all personal design choices that we make, right? The next two parts that are coming up are a satin stitch to cover the raw edges along the side of the zipper. So you could also change out the top thread to a different color if you wanted to do that. On this bag, I'm using the same thread for all the steps. But here we go with the satin stitch, and I noticed my fabric is fraying just a little bit, so I stopped it, trimmed that away. I want that satin stitch to be nice and pretty without any little pokies popping through there. So it's going to go through and do a satin stitch on the bottom raw edge first. We're just sitting here watching. I'll tell you, I have not had a cold in several years. So I got a cold a little over a week ago. It has kicked my butt, and I'm coming out of it now, but like, it's taken a minute. I am feeling better though. So once it's done with the bottom satin stitch, it's going to move over and we're going to do the satin stitch on the top raw edge. One thing I will say about stitching this in the hoop with the zipper, watch your presser foot around the zipper, right? For this particular magnetic hoop, it sort of floats the stabilizer in the middle of the hoop instead of resting on the bottom of the hoop. And it raised up my materials in the hoop ever so slightly. And the style of foot I have on my baby lock, I had to raise my presser foot up a couple notches so that it didn't like snug the zipper and sort of nudge it out of being straight, you know. So just watch that in the hoop. You might need to raise your presser foot depending on whatever kind of hoop you're using, right? So after this satin stitch, it is really important, we're going to take the hoop off the machine. Look how pretty that finished edge is with the quilting. At this part, see, it's even finished on the back side of the lining, right? The lining is quilted as well. We're going to take our two back sides. I like to glue stick mine together. You don't have to do this, but this is just an Elmer's washable glue stick. On the wrong side, I add a little bit of glue, wrong sides together. And I'm going to take that over and just dry it with my iron real quick. It's no wet glues going in the machine at all. I'm drying it right now. You can't see. So right sides are facing out. This is the back side of the hoop. We're going to center this right over top of everything in that hoop, and I'm going to put it in there with some masking tape just to hold it in place temporarily. Now we want to make sure, this is important, go ahead and open your zipper at this point. Move your zipper pull towards the center of the bag. If not, you're going to stitch it closed and you won't be able to open your zipper. Back here at the embroidery machine, I'm going to add a little bit of tape where that zipper is open. I'm kind of scared my presser foot was going to catch it right there. So there's a little bit of masking tape just for it to glide over that open portion of the zipper. And it's going to do a tack down stitch securing the lining fabrics we just added to the back side of the hoop. Going to go around this 2 times, just securing that in place really good. And that's the last step at the embroidery machine for the back of the bag. Okay, here we are with the finished back of our bag. I can just take off that piece of tape right there. That just rips off. Now the back of the bag is made bigger than the front. So I'm not worried about how much I'm going to trim off here because this is already a little bit bigger than the front of the bag. So we can just unhoop this. And I'm just going to do a rough trim because it doesn't have to be pretty at this point, right? I'm just trimming, leaving about 1/4 of an inch all the way around the bag. And that's just so that I don't cut my stitching. The back of the bag is going to end up getting trimmed even more down the road. I love this fabric with the denim. That's so pretty. All right, and so when I mentioned waste, you see how much of the fabrics get wasted, but it also gives you some space to make sure it's secure in the hoop, right? Not that bad. So here's the back of the bag, and here's our zipper. It is lined fully on the inside, and this part is quilted on the inside. Isn't that lovely? And the satin stitch finishes that raw edge on the inside and the outside. See that? For both the top and the bottom. So it's fully finished on the inside. There is no seam on this part of the bag. So that's nice and clean on the inside, right? And then this will be part of the lining on the main bag, right, when it goes together with the front. So we're going to set this aside and we're ready to hoop again, and we're going to make the front of the bag. Now before we make the front of the bag, I need to make my hardware, the little tabs with the D-rings, so that we can add a strap to our bag. So let me pick out my fabrics for that. We're going to make those tabs first, and then we're going to move over to the embroidery machine to stitch the front of the bag. So here is my fabric for the tabs for the D-rings, right? And here are my 2 D-rings. These are just barely an inch from edge to edge, right? I actually want a little bit smaller ones, but these are all I have at the moment. And so that's what I'm going to use for this bag. So we have our fabric here, and we're going to make both tabs from this one piece of fabric. So the way I like to do it is right side facing down. I use glue stick for everything. I'm going to put, well, first let's give ourselves a little reference mark, right? Let's fold this in half and give it a press. We're going to open that back up. Now we have a pressed line. That's the center. And you know what? I'm going to add a little bit of glue stick right along the center. It's like using pins, but way easier for me. And I'm going to fold both edges right to that center on both sides. And I'm going to press and dry that glue all the way from edge to edge. And now we can fold this back over like so. See that? And you know what? I'm going to add a little bit of glue stick here. That's going to keep it closed for me. And we're going to go through and press again and dry that glue. Now, because this bag is pretty thick because of the quilting, right? I like to do my tabs a little bit differently. This is really hot. So there's my edge right there, right? I'm going to put my D-ring so that this slightly smaller side, if you have a smaller side, is on the inside. And when you fold this fabric around, the smaller side is hidden on the inside, right? But instead of lining it up perfectly with the edges, I like to sort of spread it out just a little bit to help with the thickness in that seam. See that? Sort of offset it just a little bit. We're going to do one side and then add the D-ring on the other side from this one strap. And we'll go over to the sewing machine. I'm going to use my zipper foot and do a straight stitch, just sewing in that D-ring right there. You can see I went back and forth a couple of times, and wow, it's really dark over here. There you go. And I have about, what is that, 2 inches worth of tab right there. You could actually make that a little bit longer if you wanted to. We're going to put the D-ring on the other side. I'm going to offset it just a little bit. So there are both of my D-rings. And we'll come back here and I'm just going to trim my little threads where it started and stopped. Clean that up some. And then we can just simply cut this in half. And there is our hardware for the front side of the bag. So now we're ready to go ahead and hoop some stabilizer and start the front of the bag. Coming back to the embroidery machine for the front side of the bag. The very first thing that's going to happen is a placement stitch that shows the exact size of the front of the bag and also the zipper placements for both the top and the bottom zippers. Now I wish I would have thought about it. I ordered some long strands of zippers, but they're number 5 zippers and the teeth are a little bit too wide for this design. So thoughts for next bag construction. We're going to remove the hoop after the placement. We're going to check our phone and then we're going to flip the hoop over to the back side. We're going to take our inside lining for the front of the bag and we're going to place that on the back side of the hoop with the right side of the fabric facing up, and I'm just going to add some masking tape to keep that in place. And now we can add our zippers. I have the zipper completely pulled closed. I'm going to trim my zipper end so that it's not hanging too much off the side of the hoop, but we want the zipper to extend about 1 inch on both sides beyond the stitched line. And I'm just going to center the zipper right in that placement stitch and tape it down so it doesn't move. Adding the tape in the middle of the zipper might be excessive. All right, so there we go. We're going to bring this back over to the machine. The next 4 steps is going to be just a tack down of the zipper. It's going to tack down the top zipper first, both sides, and then go down to the bottom zipper and tack that down on both sides. I designed it to stop in between each one of these stitches so that the presser foot didn't catch as it was stitching along. I had that happen on one of my stitch outs, so I made those 4 separate steps. Now we can remove the tape from the zipper in the middle. You'll see I get frustrated and just end up leaving the tape there. Some people use a glue stick to secure their zipper in place in the hoop. Do you do that? I'm curious. We're going to stop for a second because I totally got ahead of myself in this next step. I'm going to show you trimming the lining fabric away from the middle portions of both zippers at this step, but I was totally getting ahead of myself. Wait on this, and it's correct on the written instructions, breaking down all the steps. That part is right. When I was making my bag, I totally got ahead of myself. Wait on this step. Do not trim the fabric and stabilizer from the middle portion of your zippers until after the placement stitch coming up of the top, middle, and bottom panels of your bag. You'll notice as I'm making my bag further down the road that I have a raw edge sticking out of the satin stitch on my top zipper and my bottom zipper of the front of my bag. That's because I trimmed it too early. Don't trim your lining fabric in between the middle of your zippers until after the placement stitch. Not like what I did here in the video, okay? Before we bringing this back to the machine, we're going to flip it over to the back side and we're going to remove the fabric and the stabilizer from the middle portion of both zippers. And again, you just want to trim this really close to the stitch line so the satin stitch down the road covers the raw edge on the back side as well. So there we go. Let's bring this back to the embroidery machine. And we're ready to do placement stitches. So it's going to stitch down a placement stitch for the top panel. And then it's going to stop and jump over that zipper, and it's going to do a placement stitch for the middle portion of the bag. And while it's doing this, it's also securing the lining on the back side of the hoop so it's not moving around as we're taking the hoop on and off the machine. Then it's going to jump down and we're going to do a placement stitch for the bottom panel. So now we're moving up to the top of the bag and we can place our first fabric and batting for the top panel. And it's going to tack it down. It's going to go around that shape 2 times. And then we're going to remove the hoop from the machine. And we're going to trim the fabric and the batting along the side of the zipper. Today I keep saying remove it from the hoop, but I need a second cup of coffee this morning, y'all. We're going to trim that fabric and batting really close to the stitch. And we're going to bring it back to the embroidery machine. We're going to do a tack down of the middle panel fabric and batting. I love this fabric with the denim. I think that is so pretty. Before we move on, let's take this hoop off. This time we're trimming the fabric along the bottom edge of the zipper and along the front, along the top portion of the zipper. My Nana loved Vera Bradley bags. She had a very massive collection of Vera Bradley bags with accessories for each bag. This bag just reminds me of her so much. That's why I called it My Nana Crossbody Bag. The next step is going to do the tack down stitch for the bottom panel of this bag. I made my mom one, and on hers I embroidered her name in that middle panel after the quilting, so there's an idea for you. Let's remove the fabric and the batting right along the zipper edge. Oh, my phone. I'm sorry about that, y'all. Let me silence that. Alright, so now we're on for quilting. It's going to do 3 individual quilting stops, right? We're going to do the cross hatching on the top panel first. I wasn't sure how the quilting would show up with the denim, since the denim is heavier than fabric. It's not the thickest of denims, so maybe that's why it just shows the quilting so beautifully on this bag. I was a little nervous that the quilting wasn't gonna like show a lot of dimension, but it really did, and I'm so pleased with that. Then it's going to stop and move to the middle part of the bag and do the crosshatch quilting there. On my mom's bag, after this step, it did the crosshatch quilting in the middle portion, and I stopped it before it moved down to the bottom part, and I embroidered her name in that middle panel right there. So there's an idea for you. And then it's going to jump down to the bottom and do the crosshatch quilting down there. I'm someone who could watch quilting all day long, so this part is sort of mesmerizing for me when it's in the hoop. I just sit there and watch it. And it's just like a good part of my day. Maybe I'm just weird like that. I don't know. Now the next part is totally optional. I want to add my little brand tag at the bottom edge of the zipper. So I have a sublimated tag. It's a little tiny tag with my logo block printed on it. It's folded in half. It's a sew-in tag. This next step is just going to do a straight stitch right along the edge right here. That's so I can add my tag and trim away the extra tag part at the top. So the satin stitch covers that raw edge, right? If you're not adding a tag, like I am, then you don't necessarily have to stitch that one straight line across right here. You could skip past that part. But it's a great place to add a little extra D-ring if you wanted to. Something right there. I'm adding my little brand tag. And then the next part is going to do the satin stitch over top of that raw edge, giving a nice finish to my tag. Again, having the quilting and the satin stitch be separate different stops, you'd have that option of changing out top threads to match each of the fabrics you're using in each one of these panels, right? On this bag I'm using the same thread throughout, but because they are separate stops, you have control over the thread choices you use for your bags. So it's going to do a satin stitch along the bottom of the top zipper first, and it's going to jump down to the bottom zipper, and it's going to do a satin stitch along the bottom portion of the zipper, and then it's going to stop, and we need to remove the hoop after this second satin stitch. So we're going to add a little lining to the bottom portion of the bag. So there's one great big opening, access through the top zipper, and then the bottom zipper opens up to a completely separate pocket. So let's remove the hoop. We're going to use the two fabrics from this template right here, right sides together. I'm going to add glue to this portion too, right? You don't have to. I think it just helps snugly put these fabrics in without a lot of puckering, right? I'm going to dry that. You see me off to the side drying the glue. And we have the hoop flipped over to the back. We're going to center these two fabrics right over top, and I'm going to use some masking tape to tape them in place. Now I used the same fabric for the inside linings, so it's hard to see where that starts and stops, right? But it's just centered over the bottom portion. It's going to do a straight stitch tack down along the top portion of the zipper, and then it's going to jump down and it's going to do a tack down along the bottom edge of that pocket. That's going to secure that lining in place. Let's take it off of the machine. We're going to bring it over, and it's hard to see because the fabric just blends in, but we're going to lift up that raw fabric right there and trim that away right close to the stitch line. So now we can bring it back to the machine, and it's going to do a satin stitch along the top raw edge of the bottom zipper first. So now that's nice and finished on the inside of the bag. And that bottom pocket is an individual pocket in the bag. And then it's going to jump up to the top zipper and do that top satin stitch. I have learned so much while digitizing this bag. I'm super excited to do future bag projects using a smaller hoop, a 5x7 hoop. I know that's a more popular sized hoop. This bag, I just really wanted it to accommodate my large cell phone, right? But I do have ideas for smaller bags that have some good size to them for a 5x7 hoop. After that satin stitch, we're going to open up those zippers. This is so important. Pull those zipper pulls towards the middle of the bag. And this zipper was, I realized later that the zipper pull was broken, and that's why I was struggling to open this zipper. That's a bummer. So after we've opened up the zippers to the middle of the bag, it's going to do a placement stitch for the D-ring tabs. It'll do a placement stitch so you know where to place it. The hardware needs to go on the inside of the bag, and I like to bring my hardware in about 1 inch so it's not in any danger of getting hit by my presser foot, right? See how far I've put it in there? It's going to tack down the zipper pulls. Now I just want to say, if you want your pulls or your D-rings in different places, you don't have to put them where I did. You could tape them in place somewhere else and skip past the placement and tack down stitch of those tabs. Now we're ready to add the back of the bag. Make sure your zipper is open and in the middle of the back of your bag, right? And we're going to do this all in the hoop. This part is bigger than the front, and so check your placement. We're going to put the zipper side of the back of the bag centered over the front of the bag in the hoop. See that? Now you can pin that in place, you can tape it in place. I'm just going to carefully hold it in place with my hands, and I have slowed my machine down. It's hard to tell, but I've slowed it down, and it's going to do a tack down stitch of the back of our bag, and it's going to go around this 2 times to securely sew together our bag. And this completes the entire bag construction. So here we are with our finished stitched bag, right? We still have to make the strap unless you have a strap already, right? Let me just go ahead and unhoop this. And we're going to trim. Now it's really hard to see my stitching, right? Because the thread color is really light for this particular bag. We do not want to trim the seam allowance too small, because I'll show you what can happen. I trimmed the seam allowance on this bag really small, and when I flipped it right side out, it didn't take much for little bits and pieces. Where is it? Where is it? Here we go. See this fabric right here? It's popping out of the seam because I cut the fabric really close to the stitching line, right? So if you don't want that to happen, we're going to leave a little bit of more of a seam allowance, and see it's happening here on the corner of this bag too. So this will be my personal use bag, right? But this one we're going to leave more of a seam allowance, okay? And I'm going to go through with my scissors and just trim away, leaving about 1/4 of an inch, right? Okay, we're all trimmed up, and I snipped the corners, although not really close to the stitching, just the very tips of the corners. And if you have a serger or a sewing machine with an overlock stitch, you might want to go through, or even a zigzag stitch, right? And sew over your raw edges of your bag just to finish them off. These raw edges will be seen in the main part of the bag, right? Inside, if you look down in this first tall pocket and you look hard enough, you'll see the raw edges. So I'm going to just take this over to the sewing machine real quick and just do an overlocking stitch all the way around the edge, because this is my bag. I want it to last forever. Plus, I feel like it'll help secure this fabric and help keep it from pulling into the seam. The seams are awful thick on this particular bag, especially with the denim, right? So I'm going to take the extra time and do that overlocking stitch. Okay, here we are. So our top zipper is partially open. I'm going to try to open it up just a little bit more, because we're going to be pulling the body of the bag right side out through this opening up top. Always have to scrunch it down just a little bit and pull that zipper even more open, which is going in a kind of awkward direction from this way. There we go. All right, so it's open all the way now. Now it's going to take a little bit of patience, and because it's a little bit on the thicker side, right? But I'm just going to reach in and start pulling this right side out, and we're going to speed this part up just so you don't have to sit here the entire length of the process, but you get to see everything. So there we are. Because it is quilted, there's, you know, the batting makes those seams thicker, and I've used denim, which makes it even more thick for my bag, right? My corners are a little bit rounded, and I'm totally okay with that. I don't think that if you don't use the denim, your corners will be a little bit more pointy, but I haven't made one of these bags yet where I have pointy corners just because of the batting and all the thickness in the seams. Now, because I left a generous 1/4 of an inch seam allowance all the way around the bag, and I overlocked that raw edge, I feel a little bit more confident, but I can just play around a little bit with what are these called? Hemostats, and just reach in and pull this out just a little bit more. But I really don't want to pop these seams, right? If you haven't overlocked the those seam allowances, I probably wouldn't even do this, because these things grip and rip, right? I think I'm gonna just let it go. I'm too nervous. I don't want to pop those seams. And I am totally okay with this bag having rounded edges. And I do think that I'll probably play around with it a little bit more. See, it's coming out even more. But that's good for now. So here is one of our D-rings, and here's one of our D-rings. And all we have left to do for this bag is a strap. But check this out. So the big pocket, I have a ginormous phone. It's a Samsung Galaxy. I don't know what Galaxy it is, but it's humongous, right? And what really makes it bulky is the case. It's a heavy duty case because I had the dropsies, and it has protected my phone from many drops, right? So the case makes it super bulky and a little bit longer. The reason I designed the bag this big with a pocket towards the top like this is because it fits my bulky telephone right down inside the pocket. See that? And I can zip it right up. And then this pocket I designed big enough that I could stick my driver's license, ATM card, gift card, whatever. Fits right down inside this pocket. Some cash, some change, chapstick, whatever, right, for this bottom pocket. And then this bag pocket is great for dollar bills, for shopping, you know, whatever you might need to stick in the bigger pocket in the back. There's plenty of room. It's a full-size pocket on the back, even with the cell phone in there. So yeah, isn't that fantastic? I love the denim with this fabric. So what I've already done is prepped. I cut my strips of denim And let's just take a look at the materials you need to make your strap, okay? You're gonna need a 4-inch wide strip that's about 45 to 54 inches. I think mine's even longer, but I like a long strap, and I'm gonna make mine adjustable, okay? And then you'll need 2-inch wide binding or batting. I've already cut mine. However long your fabric is, that's how long of a 2-inch strip of batting that you need. And then it's on the first page of the pattern. Hold on a second. Let me find it. You'll need 2 swiveling clips, right? Yeah, 2 swivel snap hooks and a slide buckle if you want to make the strap adjustable. If you don't have that, you could just measure how long you want your strap and make it that long, right? It doesn't have to be adjustable. So let me go grab that, and we're going to make a strap for this. Okay, here is my denim fabric for my strap. It's 4 inches wide, and it is super long. I love a long strap, especially since it's adjustable. I can make it whatever size I want it to be. I joined my pieces just like I would be joining bindings, so that the seams don't fall along the same spot, right? So it's not super bulky. And then I have 2-inch wide strips of batting, and this is the same batting that I used in my bag. It's the Quilter's Dream Request, and it's super thin, and I just have pieces of it. I'm not sewing them together. I'm just placing them in the bag, right? So some are long, some are short, but they're all 2 inches wide. Now, I usually just do this a fast and easy way, okay? Here is the wrong side of my, let's do it this way. The wrong side of my strap is facing up. And let's just start like this. Let me get rid of this. Make that nice and straight across there. And I just eyeball it. I'm going to put my batting and eyeball it right in the middle. See that? I have my iron warmed up, and I'm breaking out my trusty glue stick. And watch this. I'm running some glue here, and I'm running some glue here. Eyeballing the batting right in the middle. I mean, you could fold it in half and then figure out the middle, but I'm just eyeballing it. Ultimately, the fabric should come and meet towards the middle of the batting like that, right? And I'm just going to go through the entire length of this strap. If it goes a little wonky, I'm okay with that, because you're not going to see the inside of the strap anyway. And I'm just going to work all the way through to the other side. There we go. So we're back at the very beginning. Now you could go ahead and fold this again and press all the way back down, but you know what? I'm just going to skip that step because I'm a little bit of a haphazard strap maker, and I'm going to just do that at the sewing machine. Now I do have some thickness with this denim, right? It's going to be sewing through 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of denim. So I'm going to check to see how my needle does. It's a 1280 needle in the machine right now. I might need to switch over to a jeans needle, but we're going to do a straight stitch. we're going to do a straight stitch on the open side first, just securing the whole strap. And then we're going to do another strip along the other side. And a lot of people like just those 2 stitches with it being a little puffy in the middle of the strap. But I'm going to do a 3rd stitch all the way down the middle and sort of flatten my strap out, right? Because it's going to be thick. And I think I might have to increase my stitch length when I do this to accommodate for the thickness. So let's go on over to the sewing machine. Okay, I had to sacrifice one of my own bags. Fortunately, it was a bag I didn't ever use anyway. But my normal hardware, which is a 1-inch slider and 1-inch D-rings on my hooks, are too small for the denim, which I probably, if I would have thought about it, could have omitted the batting in my denim strap and just did the denim, which would have made it not as thick, and it kind of spread out doing all of the lines of stitching on there. So see the difference? This strap was made the same exact way, and this one is quite a bit wider and thicker. So anyway, although my normal hardware fits on a normal fabric strap made the same exact way, that slider is too little for my denim strap. So I sacrificed a bag to get a wider slider, and I'm just going to force the chunky strap through my 1-inch little hooks, right? So we're gonna make it work. And it's just gonna be sort of a Mod Podge of hardware there. So here's my strap. I did the overlocking stitch on the ends because it's a little thick. Sometimes I just fold them over, right? But here's my strap. The first thing I'm gonna do is feed it through my little slide bar here. So up one side, down the other. And I'm going to pull it about that far in, like so. See that? And I'm going to bring this to the sewing machine, and usually I do a couple straight stitches there, but I think for this one, since it's so thick, I might want to just do a zigzag back and forth just to secure this, right? So let's go do that. Okay, so we're coming back. So there is my swivel, and here is the raw folded side. See that? It's facing up. So we're going to bring the end like this. I'm going to feed one of these things through here. It is going to be a little tight and chunky. There's one of my hooks. I'm just going to feed it down the bag like this. And then we're going to stick this end back through here. Like so. Make sure it's not all twisted. And then back down the other side. And it's going to be tight. I just had to have the batting in the strap. I tell you what, that bag will wear out before this strap ever does. And back the other side. See that? And now we're going to bring the second swivel hook and feed it down through there and back on itself this way. Just make sure that nothing's twisted before I do that. Yes, that's correct. This has little strings all over the place. It's a little messy. Just clean it up a little bit. And now I'm going to do the same little zigzag stitch back and forth over this edge. There we go. So now we can just slide this all the way to one end. Which if I fold this strap in a little bit, it slides much easier. She's thick. And there is our completed strap, right? So now you'll just adjust it for size. So you could push this up, pull this through, make the strap much longer. So I like a long strap. There we go. And then push this hook all the way towards the end. Like so. And the only reason I'm struggling is because that strap is so thick, right? This strap, you see that this just slides up and down. Very nice and easy. And there we go. Where is our bag? So let's just put this right in the middle of this loop that we made. Yeah, that's not bad, right? And clip that there. Come around. Put that right in the middle of that fold. And clip there. And there is our finished Nana bag. My Nana would have loved this. She would have loved it so much. I love it so much. I can't wait to try it on. Alright everybody, if you have questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments below. You know, and if you've gotten this pattern and you have questions, send me a message on Etsy. I would love to help you out. Have fun everybody. Thanks for watching. Bye.